with breaking news. NFL Network insider Ian Rapoport reporting a trade between the Carolina Panthers and the New York Jets involving a quarterback. Ian, what can you tell us?
That's right. Sam Darnold, the Jets starting quarterback for the last several years, is now headed to the Carolina Panthers. The two teams have agreed to terms as far as the trade compensation. It's a 6-rounder this year, and then in 2022, a 2nd-rounder and a 4th-rounder. And this one makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. First of all, as we talked about on NFL Now earlier today, it really was the Carolina Panthers, a team, the number one team who had the unsettled quarterback situation, really the only team to possibly trade for Sam Darnold. And, you know, if you're the Jets, your options were keep both quarterbacks, which was probably unlikely, certainly not something that anybody wanted to happen, or wait until after the draft for someone who did not end up getting a quarterback. The choice the Jets made right now were, one, deal Darnold, make sure you know you had a market for him, get a team where you can have a realistic landing spot. They obviously did that with the Carolina Panthers. And then it's pretty clear they have seen enough in their quarterback evaluations to feel comfortable in knowing what they're going to get at the number 2 overall pick. Everyone believes it's going to be Zach Wilson. Now they can just talk about it, analyze it, do whatever they want to do, knowing that Sam Darnold is not going to be there. He now lands with the Carolina Panthers. The other part of this, the Panthers were big into the Deshaun Watson situation. Certainly seems that as of right now, they have pivoted off of Watson and moved on to Sam Darnold.
So that at least closes, Ian, in your opinion, that aspect, the Deshaun Watson aspect for the Carolina Panthers. But in the value, right, a 6th-round pick in this draft, future 4ths and 2nds, which you adjust the value there because they're in the future. Is that definitively saying that Sam Darnold is the quarterback here in 2021?
The value itself is not definitively saying that Sam Darnold is the quarterback. And the value actually is more saying that the Josh Rosen trade probably set the value for what a first-round pick who didn't quite pan out like you thought, what that guy should be worth. And, of course, at that point, it was a 2nd-rounder and some change. This, a future 2nd-rounder and a couple other picks. That goes from the Carolina Panthers to the Jets, who, of course, now amass even more picks. The other part of this, and there's a couple different attachments to this trade here. What happens to Teddy Bridgewater? And my understanding is the Carolina Panthers are going to look to move Teddy Bridgewater, trade him somewhere else. We can have a solidify himself as a backup, or maybe even a chance to start in a situation, or he would potentially rework his deal and stay in Carolina. My read, more likely that Teddy Bridgewater gets moved than him stay put. That is one part of it. The other part of it is Sam Darnold has the 5th-year option coming up. I would expect the Carolina Panthers, who just made an investment in the quarterback, to pick up Sam Darnold's 5th-year option. So we'll likely have 2 years left on his deal now with the Carolina Panthers.
And in the event that Teddy Bridgewater is moved and finds another spot elsewhere, the Carolina Panthers haven't changed their status within the top 10. Is there a scenario where one of the 4 quarterbacks we expect to go earlier than that might be in play, and Carolina adds another quarterback in the draft still?
It's possible. I would never rule out a team taking a quarterback in the 1st round. It just doesn't seem likely. And you know, it seems like the way the draft board is stacking up, the first 4 quarterbacks are probably going to be gone in the first 4 picks, and number 4, whether it's Atlanta or whether it's trading for someone else. So how much does Carolina like that 5th quarterback to take them there? Or does someone come up over them and trade and try to get their quarterback so we could have 5 in the top 7 picks? I mean, all of these things are plausible scenarios. What the Carolina Panthers did is make sure they get their quarterback. And I know this, when Matt Rule looked at the landscape of quarterbacks, Sam Darnold was someone he really, really, really liked. So this is someone I know with, obviously the head coach has a lot of sway in that organization. This is something that he is very happy with.
And if we go back a couple of coaching searches in the past with regards to the Jets and Matt Rule and Sam Darnold, a possible connection that could have been made at that time, they get reunited at this point. And now, Ian, looking back at the trade market for Sam Darnold, was it really just Carolina? Were there any other teams interested in acquiring Sam Darnold for the Jets?
Once it became clear that the Jets wanted to do the trade after free agency, which is to say after they evaluated thoroughly all of the draft prospects, after they took a look at at everyone, all the top 5 quarterbacks, who they want to make sure that, and again, we don't know this for sure, but it certainly seems like Zach Wilson is the guy that they are taking a very hard look at number 2. A lot of the teams that would have been in the market for Sam Darnold, the Bears potentially, the Washington football team potentially, those teams chose other quarterbacks. You know, the Bears with Andy Dalton, the Washington football team with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And you looked around, there just wasn't that many other landing spots. So, you know, I would imagine if it was the Jets, you know, they wanted more for Darnold. Of course, you wanted a first round. If you can't get that, you wanted a second rounder this year. This was the best deal they could make at this time with what seemed like the only real suitor available, and that's how Sam Darnold ends up in Carolina.